Whoever says to you, hi, the land will make them not to vote for the EFF, let them not vote for the EFF. But the primary existence of the EFF is to fight for the land to be returned into the hands of the rightful owners. Land is not fashion. Land is everything. When you are born into the land. When you die, we must find you a piece of land where you will be buried.
The ordinary people actually told us on the ground that these whites, when you buy land from them, you give them millions. They put stones in the borehole. They damage them. That's why when you come back and say, we've given you the land, you don't do anything with the land, they say, we didn't find anything functioning here. Before you paid them, everything was functioning here. After you paid them and we took over, everything collapsed. They poisoned the land. They take our millions and still poison the land. They take our millions and break the boreholes. So why would we want to engage in a risky process like that? All we are saying is that we want the land to be democratized. The ownership of the land in South Africa must be reflective of the demographics in South Africa.
Hello everybody, welcome once again to AfriPost. I believe wherever you're watching us from, you're doing great. First of all, before I say anything, it is the festive season. I know we are off from the Christmas celebrations. We are headed to the New Year celebrations. Everybody, wherever you are, happy New Year. Have a prosperous 2024. Now, I want us today to talk about the politics in South Africa, and especially when it comes to the land question. You know, in South Africa, the question about land really informs much of the political activity taking place in that country. And therefore, since the apartheid era to date, the question about owning and ownership of land has been something that most South Africans have talked about, especially the politicians. And on this one, I want to talk about the EFF party, the Economic Freedom Fighters Party, because this party was formed with an agenda of ensuring that Africans, especially Black South Africans, are empowered economically and are also empowered through the ownership of land and property. Its leader, Julius Malema, has been on the headlines here and there talking about the question of land, and especially eliminating the white majoritarianism that has been controlling most of the economies and sectors of economy within the South African Republic. Now, I want you to take a listen to this clip where Julius Malema is talking and explaining his stand about the land question and the property ownership question in South Africa. Listen before we delve in deeper after the clip. Take a listen.
Comrades, tell them about the land. That we made the land fashionable because land is everything. Do not hesitate to tell them about the land. Whoever says to you, hi, the land will make them not to vote for the EFF, let them not vote for the EFF. But the primary existence of the EFF is to fight for the land to be returned into the hands of the rightful owners. Land is not fashion. Land is everything. When you are born into the land. When you die, we must find you a piece of land where you will be buried. At the beginning, even at the end, you need the land. But land gives people dignity and confidence. Land is property. You must look at people who own property, how they behave. They are so confident even when they are empty heads. If you walk out of here, go to any Mqimbi here, it's shacks everywhere here. Go to Mqimbi here, you find an old man drunk, follow him to his place. Follow him to his shack. The shack doesn't have a window. It doesn't have a gate, no fencing. It's just a shack in jail. Chain. Before he touches the door, once he arrives and he knows where they stand, the size of the stand, the corners. Once he enters the land, he just stands like this and then he starts talking alone to himself. This is my place here. This is my place. That's what the land does. He's not talking about that shack without windows. He knows, I've got this. Is the beginning of the good things to come. As long as I've got this. Land is a sign of good things to come. And we must never compromise the struggle for land. Even endling, chairperson, if you stay in your mother's house in a back room, and it happens that there is a funeral at home, they call a family meeting. They sit there, you sit there from the back room, you come and sit with your brothers who came from their places. One of them even parked a Corolla outside there. You sit like this. But when can we bury our uncle, our father, our mother? Back room dweller. I was thinking Saturday, but Ima. People are still talking. Wait. No one has said anything. No one has said, you are the first one to talk, but people are talking. And we're now, Wabon, don't start with. Don't start. I know that thing. My grandmother had 9 kids. Every time she was fighting with them, she used to tell them about illegal occupations. Go there, people are occupying land there free of charge. You are all here, useless.
This thing of the land is very simple, comrades. You just go into a village and look at how many families are there sharing 5 to 10 hectares called their settlement. 10 hectares. And then you go next to them. You find one Afrikaner family owning 1,000 to 2,000 hectares alone. And the village is constituted by more than 2,000 families. They are sharing 10 hectares. One family of an Afrikaner owns 2,000 hectares. And they only use 200 hectares of the 2,000 hectares they are owning. And then don't touch it. Don't do anything about it. Let these villagers continue to share the 10,000 hectares when one person owns 2,000 hectares. So it can be an acceptable practice. But what I find actually more problematic is that when we speak about racism in this country, people say all manner of things. But I'm still to see a white person who supports expropriation of land without compensation. I just need one. So this thing that actually the division is a class division in South Africa is not true. Because even the poorest white person who doesn't have a land, who has got nothing, you pick up that person at the robots and say, what is your view about land expropriation? That no, leave the land alone. The poorest white person. So in South Africa, we are still to deal with class divisions. At the core of our divisions is racism. That even the white hobo can't imagine black people owning a land, and it will collapse the economy. Because the way you are so dirty, everything you touch, you dirty it. That's what they say about us, that will collapse the economy. That everyone else will go, that was Zimbabwe. But that which we are doing now, I'm still to see a person who's going to show us that this was done in Zimbabwe, that we're doing here. Yeah. It has never been done in Zimbabwe. The consultations brought involvement of everybody and allowing those who own the land to come to your meetings and insult you. It has never happened in Zimbabwe. And then that should give you comfort that our process is completely different from the Zimbabwean process. It's a completely different process. Stop sensationalizing, stop being alarmist, allow democracy to play its own role. So, with regard to the land, I think that is what we want to say. There is no food security which is going to be disrupted here. Not at all. Who are we to go into a farm that is producing food for us and say, no, you must cease operations, and then we are taking over? The ordinary people actually told us on the ground that these whites, when you buy land from them, you give them millions. They put stones in the borehole. They damage them. That's why when you come back and say, we've given you the land, you don't do anything with the land, they say, we didn't find anything functioning here. Before you paid them, everything was functioning here. After you paid them and we took over, everything collapsed. They poisoned the land. They take our millions and still poison the land. They take our millions and break the boreholes. So why would we want to engage in a risky process like that? All we are saying is that we want the land to be democratized. The ownership of the land in South Africa must be reflective of the demographics in South Africa. In Tubatsi, there in Sekhukhune, when you go to that area where there is chrome, where they said people were doing illegal chrome, before the state and big capital attacked them, just go and see what those people did with illegal chrome. In Sekhukhune, in the village, people were taking chrome because that chrome is just here. They just use a TLB. They don't use any sophisticated method to take out the chrome and sell it to whoever wants to buy it. Go and see what those people have done with that money they were getting from that chrome. You don't need a research. Just go and stand outside there. Those people have built houses, big houses for themselves out of that money of the chrome. They've changed their rural life out of that money of the chrome. Now they stopped them. When the EFF tried to intervene, that thing is owned by Samanco. Then Samanco says, no, this is our land. We've got the permit. So I asked them, what are you doing with this land? Because there's no activity here. People found an empty land. They are using it to feed themselves. They say, no, we're going to start mining here after 30 years. So I'm saying to them, but people are not going to eat after 30 years. People want to eat now. Why is Samanco and the people not coming together? Since Samanco realized these people are using this land to feed themselves, and the department coming together to try and find a workable solution which will continue to feed the people in that part of the land without any go-between. Directly the people must be helped to continue mining the chrome and don't damage the land. They will damage the land if we don't help them. They will damage the environment if we don't help them that, no, this is how you go about it. But they've demonstrated that that land can benefit them now, and they've benefited out of it. So what do we say about those people who have demonstrated that this land can feed us? What do we say about the people who are saying we've got the tools to work the land to produce food for ourselves? A white man owns a huge farm, doesn't have sufficient cattle to graze on that land. Here are the poor communities. They've got cattle. When they are found in the farm of a white person who doesn't have cattle, who doesn't use that land for anything, they are either killed or they are arrested. You have to go and bail the cattle. The land is not being used for anything. This is a community with cattle. One family has got 4, the other one has got 5. And you know what they do? They use those cattle to pay for the fees of their children. Every January, all those who live in rural areas know that big trucks go into those villages to go and buy because it's a selling season. Why are they selling in January? They must take their kids to school. They are denied that. They are denied that by people who say, if you take this land, there will be war. So what should happen to these communities which don't have the land where their cattle can go and graze? That's what we're seeking to address. These are the people who are not looking for RDPs. Because the counter argument is that, no, give us title deeds. Give the people title deeds. Give the people to own their RDPs. Our people don't want RDPs. RDPs to do what with RDPs? Cattle can't graze in an RDP. We want productive land for our people.
Thank you, President. Let's take one last round for this session. See if, okay, in that case.
There.
Is there? Okay, okay, yes, you should, bro.
Yes, Mr. Malema, has any effort we have any program or strategy to teach the food processing or food manufacturing for ordinary people they might need and they have a land?
Yes, President.
They don't need any teaching. They are producing now in their small yards now. They use tires to produce in their small yards now. Of course, we will professionalize it. Under the EFF government, proper colleges will be established with the necessary skill to professionalize it, so that we can give people certificates, since you believe in certificates. But otherwise, our people can do a lot of things without certificate. That's what he's asking for. There's a difference between being certificated and educated. We've got educated. My grandmother, 87 years old, still work the land till today. We fight about that. The season is coming now. When you go home to look for her, they will be saying she's there under the tree, giving people guidance. Hey, go that side. Go, hey. Why? She has never been to school. She knows if this land is good or it's not good. She has never been to school. Our people have worked the land before the arrival of Jan van Riebeck and fellow criminals. There was no certificate. They worked the land. Our people produced gold. There were no certificates in Mapungubwe. So, but because we now have relations with you through globalization, we appreciate that you may need some paper to prove that indeed we know how to work the land. We will professionalize it. There's absolutely no problem. We will professionalize it, but that doesn't stop. It doesn't mean that we must wait in a wardrobe until we've got certificates before we work the land. We want to work the land now. Firstly, to feed ourselves, and then feed the nations and feed the outside world. The skill is there. There are so many people, by the way, who are willing to come and work the land with us through our own condition. We are not chasing anybody away. We are saying, if you come in to work with us, you are going to do so through our terms. I heard the ordinary people in the hearings saying, these white people who are owning this land today, when we take it, let's not expel them. Let's give them offers to be managers who will employ them and pay them. Since they claim to have skill, but they will have to produce a paper. Because if we were to conduct a research of how many these farmers are qualified, and whether you have ever asked them that question, whether they've got a paper, the current ones. Because everything black, it must be proved. These whites don't have paper. I used to buy cattle there when I was in Polokwane. I used to have a farm there. The father was not always there. The young man was there. Firstly, he couldn't speak in English. Because why? He was born there. He stayed there. He has never been to school. And it's the case with many of them. They only come to town after getting drunk and beat up people and go back to the farms. So before we're even told about certificate, let them first produce certificates themselves. They do not have. In Skukuni, they were saying, a president of Contralesa, some person was saying the Skukuni there that white people do not graduate. They are not even at school. We're the only ones who graduate and all that. And I was telling the person who was sitting next to me that, no, he's talking like this because in their colleges here, Utompisi Leka and them, it's only black people in those colleges there. There are no white people. Yet there are white people in the farms there. But the people in the schools is only black Africans. So these black Africans, since they don't see fellow students in their colleges, they thought, these whites don't go to school to do this thing of agriculture, we're the only ones. And they say, no, because we're the only ones who graduate there. We must be the ones who have the land, because these whites don't graduate there. We don't even know where they graduate. So those colleges, agricultural colleges in the villages there, do not have white students. It's only black students who must prove through a paper that they can do this thing. So we're part of the globe. In the EFF, we embrace education. We love education. We encourage our people to go to school. We will take them to school to produce certificates to prove that they can work the land. We have no problem with that. But despite that certificate, they will still work the land. Because it is their land, they don't have to prove to anyone that they've got a certificate to work it. They are working it now. They may not produce at a bigger scale because there are no opportunities. 100 people producing food for millions of people. As a result, they manipulate food prices. Food is very expensive in South Africa. Food is very expensive because the food production is in the hands of the few and they manipulate it. Let's expand it. We are not going, you can't give food producing farm to Malema who knows nothing about food production. These Africans, these blacks, who are going to be assigned the responsibility of broadening the food production, they themselves will have to prove to our own state, the owner of the land, that they will use this land effectively. And if they fail, because we are the owners of the land, we will go and take it and give to other people who will use it. That's why we want the state to have power over the land. So that if you don't use it for intended purpose, and as a result you starve our economy, we must have the right to take it and give it to somebody else without compensation, because it's our land. So now we can't do it. Even farmers who are not using productive farms to produce, we can't take their farms because we are going to be told you will be taken to court. And it has to start at magistrate level. Magistrate must say, I'm not competent enough to deal with this. It must go to regional level. Regional magistrate court says, no, it's not my level. It must go to high court. Then the high court must rule against us. Then we must do an appeal. The same high court put 3 judges to listen to it, and then they don't listen to it properly. Then we are aggrieved. We go to the Supreme Court of Appeal. And then we fail at the Supreme Court of Appeal. We must go to the Constitutional Court. By the time you finish, it's 5 years before you even expropriate 10 hectares. That's what they want to do. That's why they say the current constitution allows it. Why? They want to lock you up in that process of appeals so that you can't do anything. So if the current constitution allows it, and we are saying it doesn't allow it, since we agree, let's make it clear, more clearer, so that there is no confusion around it. And no one can be dragging us to courts and the courts and the courts when we take the land without compensation.
The question of land, just as you've seen from Julius Malema, it is something that is very emotive in South Africa because we have a minority, especially the whites who are close to 9% of the South African population, owning huge tracts of land. An audit by the government in 2017 revealed that 72% of privately owned farmlands are owned by the white minority. And therefore, this really makes the question of land a very important factor when politicians engage in campaigns. We know that elections are there in 2024. But the question of land remains a central issue for every party. The ANC, which is the ruling and independence party, has been working through thick and thin to ensure that this question of land is addressed fully. Remember that around 2018, when the government went out to ensure that they acquire the lands from the white people at a cost of close to 10% of its current value. But then what happened is that Malema was vocal and said that in South Africa, we will not pay for land that was grabbed from us. This scholar has made many South Africans, especially those blacks who are suffering from different kind of economic situations, to be endeared towards Julius Malema. You saw how his 10th anniversary really pulled a huge crowd, and it is something that has really shown that Malema has become a force to reckon with in South Africa. His politics has been centered towards empowerment of the black person in South Africa, and also empowerment of the black person through ownership of property and ownership of land. Now, Julius Malema believes that expropriation of land without compensation is the answer to solving the land question in South Africa. He says that the white minority have benefited from these lands since they grabbed them from our black people. And therefore, it is time they returned it to us, the black people, without claiming any form of compensation. So it is a question that really Malema really fights, and he's been talking about it in every rally that he goes for. Remember that he has said that his sole responsibility or his sole purpose is to ensure that he dismantles the white land ownership in South Africa. I don't know how South Africans are going to take this. And I remember there was this other time when I released a video about Malema, and one of you South Africans told me that I am being biased because I'm siding with Malema instead of also talking about what the government is doing. But I can take it from you, and I understand really. The government has been working hard to ensure that this works. But as opposition politicians, you would understand that it is the work of the opposition to really push the government to its edge and ensure that it delivers on the promises that it was elected on. So this is something that is really hitting. And I believe that people are having different opinions about it. There are different shades of ideas that people are pushing across. And therefore, I believe that South Africans must come together. It is upon you to choose who you are going to elect. You could be supporting the ANC party. Thank you. That is a good party. It has worked so hard to ensure that South Africa rises. If you look at its credentials, it has given South Africa its independence. Also, you remember that the EFF party has also been very vocal. We cannot wish EFF away because it has really been a party that is vocal on issues relating to Africa and also issues relating to South Africans, the common person within the South African Republic. But we know one thing. In 2019, the courts said that Julius Malema must be stopped. He is not allowed to incite illegal land raids because he's been saying that these white people, they are here, they have taken up our land. We need to take back this land without paying a cent. And this is something that is really serious. You know, Zimbabwe also tried to push this question of expropriation of land without compensation. And on their case, they tried to fast track this land ownership to an extent that the white landowners who were in Zimbabwe did not get the opportunity to even go to courts and fight these challenges. So this is what led to Zimbabwe getting sanctions that has really ruined its economy to date. So it is very important for us as Africans, and especially now in South Africa, to really be careful on how we are going to handle this issue of land, because if we go for expropriation without compensation, it is important to talk about the effect it is going to cause to the South Africa's economy and even to the common South African person. So tell me what you think down in the comment section. If you're a South African, which party you're going to vote for? I know that it is now charged, the campaign season is hitting. After these New Year celebrations, people will be out campaigning here and there. And as we wait for the elections to come, I believe youths are going to make their best decisions. So tell me down in the comment section which party you're going to vote for and what is your stand on this question of expropriation of land without compensation. Thank you. Please remember to take care even as you celebrate. Have yourself a happy New Year, and may the good Lord bless you. Enjoy yourself.